Hi, my name is Camille Simone Thomas. I'm a teaching artist here at Partnership with Children.
Cool, thank you. And I'm Savannah Fitzpatrick. Okay, so we're discussing an article today. It was written by Alexandra Moe. It was an opinion article for the Washington Post called "How Theater Can Teach Our Kids to Be Empathetic."
Mhm.
So I just have some questions for you, Camille. We can go through them at our leisure. So my first question is, why do you teach drama or theater, however you prefer to refer to it? And what makes it special and or important to you personally?
Yeah, I teach theater because I love teaching theater. I think all kids should have access to the arts. And I think it's special to me because it's something that I grew up doing. I love storytelling, and I think kids should have the ability and the ownership to tell their own stories.
That's great. Yeah, I think that authorship really comes through in this article too, as being such a critical factor that theater offers children. So, did anything from the article jump out at you as true or even false? Or did it give you any kind of gut reaction? And if so, what was it?
I think I just really enjoyed the entire article. I found it to be very true. It's just always very validating to see something published that you know inherently, where I'm like, oh no, people are researching this. Like theater does have merit, even though I am not a researcher. It's nice to see like data and numbers behind it.
Right, because I'm sure you see it in the classroom every day, right? But
Hmm.
then, getting that data to back it up is probably affirming to the work that you do. Um,
Yeah.
Mo in the article mentions the concepts active listening and active learning. Um,
Hmm.
could you describe how those maybe are related to SVE specifically?
hmm I think it's just a more embodied style of listening and learning. So we in the Student Voice and Engagement program, we strive to have social emotional learning skills happening in the classroom. And you can really see that happening in the way that students are empathetic towards each other during the work. One of the monologues that we did, and we just found these online, like monologues for fourth graders. It was about a student who was really nervous about being in fourth grade. And so two of the students were working on it together, and one of the girls was like, "Oh yeah, I remember when I was nervous about being in fourth grade." And she ended up telling us she was, how old is she? I think she might be 12. And she was like, "Yeah, this is my second time doing the fourth grade, so I was kind of nervous about it." And I was like, "Oh wow, we really had a conversation about her feelings, and it really stemmed from just this monologue that we were working on in class."
That's cool that she was able to find something that, not only that she related to, but that also
Hmm.
she felt, then comfortable to open up and share. Um, that's really cool to get to witness in the classroom. Um,
Yeah.
do you have a favorite go-to theater activity for SVE students? And what kind of communication skills do you feel like that cultivates, if you do?
hmm I always play this one game called Opposites. I do it with all my theater students where they do the opposite of what I tell them to do. So when I say jump, you clap. When I say clap, you jump. When I say stop, you go. When I say go, you stop. And then there's a couple of other instructions. It just gets them so engaged, like they are listening 100% because you have to listen and then process what you're supposed to be doing. And it also teaches like really good spatial awareness, because they're walking around in the classroom and they have to not bump each other. And they're just all 100% engaged, and it's nice to see them so focused on something.
For sure. Yeah, I would imagine, that you mentioned like that processing time. And I'm trying to think like, what would I do if I had to play this game? And I'm sure it would
Yeah.
take me a second to get used to it. So that really does seem like active listening and active
hmm
learning. And, those are enhancing communication skills. Um, in the article, Mo discusses providing young kids with fantasy books and
hmm
encouraging them to be like the authors of their own stories. And, you mentioned your love for theater having to do with storytelling.
hmm
Um, so I guess I'm wondering, do you have any tactics in mind that you would recommend to parents for, fostering empathy and building that emotional understanding, regulation, and executive function that Mo mentions in the article, at home, like outside of the theater classroom, where maybe they could use things that you use in the classroom, but in a slightly different, setting or a slightly
hmm
different way?
Yeah, definitely. I just think every moment is an opportunity for imagination. Look up in the sky, you see a cloud. It's like, oh, what do you think that cloud is shaped like? I think it's an elephant. Well, I think it's a turtle. And then just having a conversation. You can find simple conversations to have with children anywhere in this world.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, encouraging that imagination to kind of run free is something you can do in pretty much any setting, and no matter
Hmm.
who you are. So yeah, that's cool. The article also references studies that evidence the impact of theater on English language learning in students. How would you describe the SVE philosophy, or approach to that? Because I know that's, a part of the program.
Hmm. Just repetition, repetition, repetition. The more enticing we make education, the more students want to learn it. So we have a couple of Spanish speaking students who, again, don't speak English, but because they've heard so many of the kids do the same monologue 20 times, then they're like, okay, I think I'm ready to do the monologue. And they pretend to read from the paper, but they've heard it so many times that they more or less have memorized it. They're really short monologues. And so I'm just excited that they're excited about practicing English without being embarrassed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you're touching on kind of what Mo described in the article too, with some of the students saying that, it's really like the memory of hearing it over and over again and using it over and over again in these
Hmm.
specific contexts. And I think in one of the examples provided, they were even doing like pronunciation correction and things like that, but in a safe space because it's,
Hmm.
this theater room where everyone's kind of like putting themselves, center stage and for everyone to see. And so it makes it a little less intimidating maybe for everyone to be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, which I know, it's hard when you don't speak the language. And, you're also just trying to navigate school and everything like that. So yeah, I can definitely see how SVE, helps students in that situation, to
Hmm.
kind of grasp the language as they're learning it and employ it actively. Um, do you have any favorite like success stories relating to students that you've taught, who you saw grow, change, or take something important away from their theater experiences?
Hmm. I think just how much students are opening up in the second year of the program. The first year, one student, she couldn't read, and I didn't know she couldn't read until like almost the end of the school year. I'm like, why didn't you tell me you couldn't read? She was like, well, this is like embarrassing. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then none of the other teachers really told me she couldn't read either. So I just thought maybe she's being defiant. Maybe she doesn't like theater. Maybe she just is more of a math kid and not like an outspoken theater kid. But this year, I was like, hey, so and so, are you still having troubles with reading? And she was like, yep. And I was like, no problem. We'll work around it. So to just be able to get that out of the way in the first week of school and figure out workarounds and figure out how to boost her confidence is a success story to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that she even felt comfortable enough to open up and tell you that, because who knows? I mean, I don't know what to what degree that the teachers are even necessarily aware,
Hmm.
because it's might be something that she's holding close to her chest because she doesn't feel comfortable talking about it. So even just sharing that with you at the end of last year is a success in and of itself. And then that you can go into this year and keep working with her with that knowledge in mind. I'm sure you guys are setting her up for success
Yeah,
going
I hope
forward.
so.
Well, this is my last question, but what is the most important thing that theater has taught you individually?
Probably just risk taking, going out there and not being afraid to be silly, making big choices in a strong direction and going for what you want.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I think, that confidence, that gets referenced so often in talk around drama and theater kind of gets at what you're saying too, in terms of
Hmm.
risk taking and like, being sure of yourself and going for it no matter what. And that we can instill that in students is exciting. So yeah, no, I really appreciate your time, Camille.
Thank you,
Thank you
Savannah.
very much. And yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed the article as I did. All right. Thank you. Take care.
Have a good one.
You too.